Welcome to the show. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And today we are discussing Spiderman No Way Home, the third Tom Holland Spiderman movie. We'll laugh, we'll cry, we might get a little too into it, but at the end of the day, they're just Spiderman.
With great power comes great spoiler alerts.
Yo, that's true.
It's true.
That's 100% true.
Is that your Toby voice or your May voice?
It's all of them combined.
I feel like we have to give a special spoiler alert.
Super special.
Like, did you hear that, guys? Spoilers, because spoilers have been attacking the internet since this movie came out.
I actually gave a slight spoiler even in my response to David a few minutes ago. See if you can spot it. And next week we are doing The Matrix 4, the new one, Resurrections. Go see it. I have nothing to do the day after Christmas. Nothing. Did you know that's the biggest day at the theater?
What?
Boxing Day is always the biggest day.
Okay.
I used to work at one. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, wait, it's not bye-bye.
I see it's right now.
David, what are you giving this movie out of 10?
Oh, so you liked the final battle of Endgame when all that cool comic book stuff you've been dreaming of actually happened? What if I told you they'd turn that feeling into a 2.5-hour fan servicing of a lifetime? If you've ever cared about the cinematic world of a spider, you'll want an extra pair of pants.
Oh.
8.8 out of 10.
Wow.
Because they'll be full of web. Yes, it does come out of everywhere.
I webbed myself.
Riley, please, web us.
What is it with Spider-Man and multiverses? Only 3 years after Into the Spider-Verse, we're getting another interdimensional adventure.
It's live action. It's different.
Yeah. And I'm totally fine with it because, damn, this movie is awesome. I'm not even a Spider-Man fan, and I cried. 8.25 out of 10.
Hell yeah.
We're called Spider fans.
Spider fans?
Spider fans, yeah.
It's me, Spider fan.
8.25?
8.25.
David, did you say your number?
8.8.
8.8.
Okay.
Double eights.
Okay.
What about you, James? He's going to be the hater.
Since I was 12 years old, this is the Spider-Man movie I've been waiting for. I loved it, guys.
It was so good.
Loved it.
Wait, that was your slogan?
That's it.
Okay, wow,
Literally since I was 12, even as a dumb 12-year-old, I kind of walked out of the first Spider-Man movie lightly disappointed. I didn't love Green Goblin and stuff, but this movie, so awesome. Giving it a 9. It was thrilling. It was hilarious. The fan service was awesome.
So good.
It didn't overdo it. It was like, is this a phase 4? Like, is this an end of phase, like Endgame tier movie?
Yeah.
This was, I think, the best Spider-Man movie ever. Is at least as good as Spider-Verse. It's the best live action.
I'm gonna disagree with that a little bit. I feel like Spider-Verse is better than this. But it's obviously the best out of the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy.
Best
Yeah.
live action, I'd say.
And we talked about it on the Spider-Man 2. Like, I don't know if I can say that this is better than like Spider-Man 2 because there's like all this nostalgia. It's old. I don't know if you can directly compare them, but like for this time,
Yeah.
this is one of the best Spider-Man
I
movies
think
ever.
for what this movie's going for,
You
it's
mean this
pretty,
timeline?
Sure.
it's pretty much perfect. It gives you exactly what you would want out of it.
Yeah.
And so I've never been in a movie where people cheered more than
Oh,
this
yeah.
movie. There was at least 20 like full audience claps and cheers, and I
lot
was
of
like,
wow.
ruckus.
holy crap.
And I saw it on a Sunday. It wasn't even opening.
Wow.
It's opening weekend.
Yeah,
but
I saw it
still.
opening night, and I've never everything that happened in this movie. Fucking Charlie Cox shows up, and it's like,
Was that Daredevil?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
Daredevil claps.
Yeah. I mean, it's not perfect
No.
for me. There's definitely some bits where I'm kind of like, this feels fan fiction-y or cheesy, but like it's almost, and they're there. I can't ignore that the not so great parts are there, but like the movie almost makes up for it
Just
later.
bulldozed them over.
Like
Yeah.
the bad things, they kind of like flip them around and like actually that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But we'll get super into that.
Right after this message from our sponsor, Manscaped, the best in men's below the belt grooming.
Did you hear me?
God damn it. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. That's your genitals, including their 4th generation trimmer. It's called the Lawnmower 4.0. Its new wireless charging system removes the need to bring cables with you, and it's compatible with most Qi charging pads. That's nice. The Lawnmower 4.0 includes ceramic blades with skin-safe technology. You can just go ham on that MF, reducing nicks and cuts. It's cordless, waterproof, and gets 90 minutes of use on a full charge in case you want to go all the way down to your ankle. So head to manscaped.com/TJM20 and get 20% off, buddy.
What?
And free shopping today.
Free shopping.
You can do it.
What would the family jewels be if not genitals?
I don't know. Some people got nice knees.
All right.
Thanks to Secret Lab for sponsoring today's episode. Secret Lab chairs are engineered to keep you comfortable for long hours at work or podcasting play. We're sitting in them right now, believe it or not. Their Titan Evo 2022 series chair offers 4-way lumbar support for you old people with bad backs. It comes with a magnetic memory foam head pillow, and it's offered in different upholsteries like hybrid leatherette, soft weave fabric, and apple leather. That's just, That's just nice to have. With up to a 5-year extended warranty and 49-day return policy, you're covered if anything goes wrong, including pooping yourself like I might today. That's some old food, guys. Learn more about Secret Lab at lmg.gg/secretlabtjm.
Speaking of which, I'm using the butt pillow right now. Not
What
the
a
head pillow.
colorful ad read that was.
It was.
So
Don't skip,
colorful.
guys. You never know.
You did a great job, James.
All right.
Just like
Right away in this
Sony
movie.
and Marvel did a great job with this movie.
Are you going to do the synopsis first?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
After Mysterio, this bleeds right out from the sequel. After Mysterio posthumously reveals Peter Parker is Spider-Man, he, his girlfriend MJ.
Posthumously.
What did I say?
Posthumously?
Post like the
After
cereal.
he humused.
After he
All right.
was humused.
Go ahead.
Posthumously?
Yes, please.
I'm not British.
All right.
Peter, his girlfriend MJ, and best friend Ned grapple with negative publicity, leading to their MIT applications being rejected. Peter asks Doctor Strange for help, who starts casting a spell to make everyone forget Peter is Spider-Man. Peter interrupts to ask for exceptions for MJ, Ned, and May, corrupting the spell, but Strange manages to contain it and sends Peter away.
Gotta tame that Strange.
That's what he says
Oh my.
when he hooks up with people.
Go ahead.
Later, Peter is attacked by Otto Octavius, who Strange teleports into a magical holding cell alongside the Lizard. Okay, wait, I want to say that again.
Strangely.
Yeah. Later, Peter is attacked by Otto Octavius, who Strange teleports into a magical holding cell alongside the Lizard, aka Kurt Connors. Strange explains that the spell summoned people who know Spider-Man's identity from across the multiverse, and tasks Peter, MJ, and Ned to find them. After Peter captures Electro, aka Max Dillon, and Sandman, aka Flint Marko, Norman Osborn suppresses his Green Goblin personality and is found by Aunt May. Strange puts the original contained spell in a box that will send the villains back to their home universes, which may result in their deaths. But Peter, inspired by May, insists they try to save them by curing their conditions first. So he traps Strange in the mirror dimension, stealing his sling ring and the box. At Happy Hogan's apartment, Peter cures Octavius using Stark Industries tech, but Osborn's goblin persona convinces the other villains to escape and then stabs May, who tells Peter that, with great power, there must also come great responsibility
Why?
before dying. I know
Why
they
not
changed
just
the
say
wording.
it? Why
Just
not?
so slightly.
Meanwhile, Ned manages to create portals with the sling ring, finding 2 alternate universe versions of Peter, who encourage Peter 1 to fight in May's honor. The 3 Peters develop cures for the villains and lure them to the Statue of Liberty. In the ensuing battle, the Peters cure Sandman and Lizard, Octavius cures Electro, and Peter 2 saves MJ from falling to her death. Ned frees Strange from the mirror dimension, but Osborn arrives and destroys the box, rupturing the barrier between universes. An enraged Peter 1 tries to kill Osborn, but Peter 2 stops him before being stabbed by Osborn, who is then cured by Peters 1 and 3. Peter 1 realizes the only way to protect the multiverse is to erase himself from everyone's memory, and after promising MJ and Ned he will find them again, Strange casts the spell. The grammar there was wrong. Peter promises that. Strange casts the spell, returning everyone to their respective universes. Later, Peter visits MJ and Ned to reintroduce himself, but decides against it. And after a conversation with an unaware Happy at May's grave, Peter makes a new suit and becomes Spider-Man once more. And then do you want to talk about the credit scenes?
He never
What?
stopped being Spider-Man. He
Well,
Peter Parker was.
But he was like, I think the implication is that he was like, maybe I shouldn't be Spider-Man now. But then his conversation with Happy is, he's kind of like, okay, yeah, I will.
I never really got that.
I mean, that's up for interpretation.
Mid-credit scene.
Mid-credit scene, we get Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock.
Holy crap. I was like never more glad that I never watched the Venom movies.
know.
When the symbiote was like, I'm talking off screen, I was like, oh, there's a character off to the left. They're going to show me in a second. No. I was like, what is this goofy?
I know.
Holy.
They never even show the symbiote.
But it was
so awful.
It was so like, it seemed like low budget. Like I didn't know what the voice was at first. I'm like, what is that? Is there a Muppet in the scene?
Have you seen the Venom movies?
No, I haven't seen
I'm
either.
assuming that's.
I saw the
it's in
first
there.
one. I haven't seen the second
But that voice is
That's the
how they do
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's awful.
So that scene ends with him being teleported away, but
So
a
no
little
more,
bit
no
of
more Ed
symbiote.
Hardy.
No,
Tom Hardy.
well, no, he's back in his own universe.
Yeah. So he wouldn't. Presumably, he wouldn't be the next MCU Spider-Man then, right? The symbiote is.
Yeah.
But he's-
Spider-Man.
But
Yeah.
he's not.
No, he's not. He's not at the MCU. Yeah, he's
yeah.
not the MCU.
Tom Hardy
Venom.
won't be the.
And then the post-credit scene, I was just pissed. It wasn't even a scene. It was just
it was
marketing.
like- it was
Marketing.
straight up a
Yeah.
trailer. It was like
Yeah, I was
teaser.
Annoyed.
It started like a scene, though. They knew what they were doing. Because at first
Yeah.
it was like he's approaching Wanda, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's just a trailer after
It's
that.
funny because like
Waste of time.
I don't know why that would irritate me because the post-credit scenes are always just like little teasers for other movies. But this one was, I don't know, it felt weird to have it just be a straight up trailer.
It's the nature of the content. When it's a scene, it's
It
like
should be a scene.
be a scene. Otherwise, it's suddenly I'm trying to figure out, is this a scene or, oh, it's a trailer. Oh no, I don't really watch trailers. Now I've seen too much. Ah, damn it.
Yeah, it's more of like it's not narrative content. It's like an advertisement.
Yeah.
It's like, it would be
Hype
like,
beast.
it would be like, stay tuned after the credits for a Doritos ad.
Yeah, they should have done that. I really like Doritos. I might have stayed, but no. Anyways, let's
Oh
get
man,
into
did you see the
this
Doritos
movie.
ad at the end of this movie? So good.
This movie, though, you could tell it was sick right from the drop. Like, not even first frame, like when it's still doing the Marvel roll kind of stuff, and you have that audio only
Oh yeah.
roll of just like the gravity of this movie, the tone of this movie, like things are bad. There's fake news in the form of the Daily Bugle, which I thought was so sick.
Yeah.
Making it a controversial kind of online news source.
Well, it's kind of funny because he's big enough to be broadcast in Times Square or wherever they were in that beginning bit. Which is like, okay, that wouldn't be Alex Jones. But then later he's like, supplements. That was so funny. I was like, oh, he's like Alex Jones. But then it's like, what? I don't know.
And question, was J.K. Simmons' portrayal of the Bugle and the Bugle in general in Tom Holland Spider-Man movies before?
No.
No.
The
Okay.
reveal at the end of Far From Home was that J.K. Simmons existed in that universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
J. Jonah Jameson
J. Jonah Jameson.
played, which is
J.K.
interesting.
Jonah.
Because it's like the multiverse like allows them to reserve the right to be like, all right, this character looks different and is a different actor, but this character is the same because it just happens to be, it's like whatever. That's the way it plays out.
Disney is just like creating algorithms for like which character is beloved, which actor is beloved, and like they're like making the ultimate movies and like bringing in who they want. Like they're like, I'm sure with the Netflix characters, they've just scoured forums and like
But that's
comments.
you're right. That's a total contrivance where it allows, the way they set it up allows for conveniences like that. Question, in the Garfield Spider-Man, is J.K. Simmons in that?
No.
Because that would be hilarious. If he were, there probably would have been a scene in this movie where all three Peter Parkers, they see him and they're like, hate that guy.
Yeah.
It's the same guy.
Oh yeah, he's like, he hates Spider-Man so much and then he sees three of them swinging past. He's like, what? That's like an aneurysm.
Oh, man. Anyway, right after that and into the movie, the pace was so high.
Yeah.
It was so frenetic.
Very high energy intro.
And even though the tone was set up as being kind of dark, like Spider-Man, like he's screwed now.
Yeah.
They immediately somehow turn that into levity when he's slinging with MJ and they're going down in the sewers. That was way worse. Like the comedy that you love from the first movies is still there.
Right.
So that was just a really good way to weave everything this movie is gonna give you into the first couple minutes.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I always appreciate a nice high energy intro like that. You feel like you're being taken care of well. Of course, in something like Rise of Skywalker, it feels super weird. But in this one, it was like, okay, we're coming straight out of the sequel and into an action scene. So it felt a little bit more fluid.
Just because it moves fast doesn't mean that it's good or bad. Like in that Star Wars movie, it was just, now we're going to this planet, now we're here, and it was just kind of too much.
Yeah, I mean, it was partially too much because it's sci-fi and they're like teleporting to different planets and stuff. And this one, it's just like, we're going on a wild ride through New York.
And it's the execution, like the cinematography helped with the pace. There's that scene, they go into May's apartment, and it's like a one shot. From out of the window and into the room and then around the room and then back out again. And it helps you really get immersed in their point of view.
Yeah.
Like, this is all happening right now. There's no time to stop. We're going to keep going and we're just with them the whole time.
Yeah, I love that scene when they get into the apartment and they're realizing like everybody's just outside, like the helicopter outside. And he just like closes the windows and they're all talking, they're all freaking out.
Yeah.
It's really, like you said, the cinematography really tells the story. Like, it captures the freneticism, but it's very clear action.
Right.
And I think this movie's really good at visually storytelling, but just making it really easy to understand.
And also they overstimulate you because it's not only the stress of this new revelation that everyone knows he's Peter, but this dual simultaneous threat of like the breakup. And Peter, and while he's closing all those windows, he's not being like, guys, they know who I am. I got to get out. He's saying, yeah, tell me what happened. We should go through this. Why'd you guys break up? And so it's more stimulating because there's more threads.
Yeah, this Spider-Man trilogy has, I feel like there's like a thread going through them with the cinematography, as you're saying. Like, I think that every movie tries to have one of these shots where it's kind of like, it's all one shot moving through some kind of space or whatever. We have like Tom Holland's Spider-Man like doing the vloggy thing with his phone, but in this one it's a video call with MJ. These are kind of like things that I think they have done in both of the other Tom Holland Spider-Man movies as well. So it's nice to see that language carry forward in this one. Yeah. And yes, it's always great to have like, was Peter trying to like distract them from the other stuff by talking about the breakup, or did he actually want to talk about it?
I think he wants Happy to be part of the family because that's like tying Tony Stark to his family still.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's his intent. That's what I read.
It's just another thing that's like building on his anxiety. He's like, no, all this other stuff's going wrong, and now you guys are breaking up? Oh, okay.
Could also have been avoidant.
Maybe.
You don't want to
Right.
deal with something like that.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
It did seem like he was trying to hide it from them a bit, right? Because that's why he finally relents and damn it, he opens up the
that's fair.
blind.
That's fair.
Yeah. Let's go to when the guys start showing up.
Well, I thought that was the point in the movie, the octopus fight,
Yeah.
where I was like,
The
this
octopus fight.
is so sick. This is probably better than Doc Ock fights of Spider-Man 2, I would argue, or at least as good.
I don't think so. Like that's
Yeah.
There's actually, I want to say on the positive, but my one problem with this movie is until the final fight, I don't think they capture the kineticism of Spider-Man's powers quite well. I think like a lot of his fights are on the ground and they're like punching people and it's like one kind of jump like landing, and that fight especially, it's like they're kind of just like circling a bridge and it's like it doesn't feel like they're like flying through the air doing really cool stuff. But I love obviously when like Otto Octavius, the one we recognize, Alfred Molina is there. I think that emotion is so cool. But I will say, as someone who did watch the trailers, I was very regretful in that moment that I knew
Oh yeah.
what was going to happen.
But it wasn't even the trailers. It was like they were posting stuff.
Yeah.
They were like, "Hey, he's gonna be in this movie." Like he's on the he's on the poster. So it's like it is kind of annoying that they let everything go like that. But at the same time, I know that I wouldn't be nearly as excited to see this one if they hadn't let that.
Well, I'm sure this
let that
movie's going to be one
information
of the most successful ones because of all that stuff.
Right.
And I think like they did a good job giving some stuff away, but then like it wasn't even confirmed Andrew Garfield was in it. But anyways, let's go back to this Doc Ock.
Yeah, that
fight.
was a good reveal.
It was interesting for me because as someone who doesn't really engage with a lot of the online marketing, and I don't watch trailers very much, as y'all know, I was even having watched Spider-Man 2 like days ago, where there's all those like thuds and glasses shaking when Doc Ock approaches.
Yeah.
I still was like, "What's that? What's that noise?" Oh shit! It's Octopus. So I knew he was. I knew they were all in this movie, but I hadn't like seen him in the trailer and stuff. So it's just the perfect. You can't escape all of it. You do miss out on engaging with the cultural stuff, getting hyped.
Yeah.
I do acknowledge that I miss out on some stuff, but I'm sitting in the theater being like, "Oh yeah, Octopus is here! Let's go!"
Yeah,
which is
I
cool.
I still had like moments like that, which we'll talk about later. But I completely agree with you, Daniel,
Hi.
David, about
David Radcliffe.
about the Doctor Octopus, like the choreography and stuff. I feel like Spider-Man 2, especially like the train fight, it's just such a great showcase for what you can do with like heroes with different move sets and stuff. And in this one, it did feel a little bit more generic, like, "Oh, I'm just grabbing you and slamming you into something," you know?
Throwing a car at you. Or
You know what I really liked about this one too is it showed Octopus the difference with this Spider-Man. You're in a different world, buddy. There's nanotech.
Yeah, I loved
when
that
he got
moment.
like stabbed for a second there. I was like,
Yeah.
"What?"
Yeah, I love that moment too when you think that Doc Ock is about to power up and you're like, "Uh-oh," and then they reverse it and you're like, "Oh, actually the nanotechs take control of the arms."
nanotech. I was like,
That's
"What?
so
This
sick.
seems like a big flaw in the nanotech design." You just take some and then it becomes your suit.
Yeah.
That
I
was
was like,
so,
"Oh no, that makes more sense."
So
I love
dope.
one of the things I really like in this movie is the really subtle fan servicey things, because there's all of his like the really clear ones when like Norman Osborn's like, "I'm a bit of a scientist myself," which I love.
Yeah.
But I much prefer the quiet ones when Otto is like, "Listen to me now."
Yeah.
Listen to me now. And like if you had just watched the movie like we had it, it's like, "Oh yeah, that's from Spider-Man 2." But if I hadn't, I would have been like, "What's that from?"
See, like, I don't know. So this is the main thing I was thinking about earlier when we were like, it's a perfect movie. And I'm like, "Ugh," because like those like repeating of the iconic lines and stuff, it feels really fan fiction-y. Like it feels really like, "Oh, I'm writing my own little story and I have the opportunity to play with any action figure that I want." So like he comes in and then he says the thing that he says in that movie.
The power of the sun in my palm of my hand.
Yeah.
It's
He
hit
says it
or
like
miss
3
for me.
times.
It's hit or miss for me. There's some that I
Well,
really like.
in the
and there's some I
defense of
don't.
those lines, yeah, they're repeat lines, so I guess you could read them as fan service, but they're also catching the audience up to speed.
That's true.
Right?
That's
Like
true.
if you didn't watch Spider-Man 1 in 2001 because you are currently 15 years old, you know,
Yeah, but
you
what do you mean?
need some of the, "Oh, he's got kind of a split personality thing going on."
Well, but we can do that without repeating the same line. I mean, I know why they do it, right? They do it because there's a certain class of fan that we have talked about in previous podcasts that see that stuff and they're like, "Oh, he said the line." But like for me, I'm just kind of like, nah, I can just see that. I can see them writing it and being like, "They're gonna love this."
Yeah.
And the best part is when someone has written a script being like, "They're gonna love this." And I don't think about that because I am actually loving it. And this is a weakness. But I will say that I wrote down in the beginning, I'm like, I don't know how this movie's going to turn out. Like, this feels really fan fiction-y to me right now.
Yep.
They got, like, it's a lot of fan service. There's There's these lines that they're repeating that everyone recognizes them. But then later, it almost makes up for it, particularly when the new Spider-Man show up.
Oh,
I feel
so
like that's
good.
the switch. That's the moment in the movie that things switched from being like, this seems like a kid playing with a bunch of action figures from different multiverses to, oh, I'm in good hands. This is good. This is hilarious.
Yeah.
There's emotional cores here. Like, the
God.
reason why they're bringing these villains in is not to just be like, look, it's the guy, but to be like, hey, there are some unresolved tensions that we are going to resolve, and you're going to feel fucking good.
And we get to explore how this Peter Parker is different. We get to learn more about this character through those guys.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. I love that.
Yeah.
For me, when the movie started really clicking is when it gets past what we knew from the trailers, and we start to get the plot of trying to fix the villains.
Right.
Because like up until then, I'm like, yeah, they're just gonna bring all the 6 villains, and then they're gonna fight, and it'll be cool. But whatever.
It was unclear what the dramatic question of the movie
Yeah, but then
was.
when they're like, can we fix them? And that's when it became interesting to me. And they're going to the apartment, and they're starting to fix them. And then when they actually fix Otto, I was like, oh yeah, okay, we're starting to have breakthroughs here that I wasn't feeling before, and I got really excited.
And it's really harmonious with the Tom Holland character, the fact that he's the high school Spider-Man. Because he's the young, bushy-tailed, bright-eyed, naive one.
Yeah.
Of course, he thinks he can fix them. The other ones
Right.
might have been like, nah, man.
Yeah, it's
Just
great.
let him die.
And it's great to see. Like I love that they chose to portray these 3 Peters in different times of their life. Like Tom Holland is just coming out of high school. Andrew Garfield has been doing it for a little bit, but he's in a bit of a dark place because he's kind of lost. And then we got the older Toby Maguire, who is like, hey, I've lived a life. I've kind of figured it out. It gets better, guys. Don't worry. So like, I love that we get the opportunity for Tom Holland's Spider-Man to see the future and be like, it is possible. Like things could get better.
Yeah.
I just I can't give in to my hate, my negative, the dark side.
Yeah, we kind of lucked out with the fact that what was practical, like, okay, Tobey Maguire's 46 now.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be looking like 2004 in this movie.
Right.
What was practical, showing him as a 46-year-old, actually was probably the best option for this movie and these characters. Like that's lucky. Although I wanted to ask you guys, did they de-age Molina?
I think so.
Because he's not supposed to have aged, and neither is Willem Dafoe's characters. They died at that
And they
time.
both look older, but I think they didn't de-age Dafoe, but I think they did de-age. At least in the trailer they did. There was a weird CG face thing going on in the trailer. I didn't notice it as much in the movie.
Maybe there was backlash and they dialed it back.
Maybe.
I noticed only in one shot, there was a pretty close-up shot on Alfred Molina, Doc Ock's face, where he looked kind of soft in the cheek, and I thought they probably
That's
de-aged him
possible.
a bit there.
Yeah.
But Willem Dafoe, I didn't.
He's got a lot of
Find that.
edges.
But he kind of always has. He probably came out of the womb like
He's
crinkly,
born
you know?
to be the Green Goblin, man. Dude's so good. And I think this might be his best portrayal of the Green Goblin, because he's always been an excellent Green Goblin. Every time he shows up, you're like, yeah, he's awesome. But he has so much to do in this movie, and like all his turns when he's like that sad old man at feast, and you're like, is he tricking them? Is he doing this? But then you feel all this pity for him, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, maybe in this universe he can be good.
Right.
And
Feast
then
being Aunt May's
the
charity.
shelter or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he helps Peter with like fixing Alfred Molina. But then at the last second, when they're going to inject him with the serum, he turns and he goes so evil. And he goes the most evil Spider-Man villain of any of the movies.
Yo,
As he should be.
Yeah.
Like that, he is kind of Spider-Man's arch nemesis.
Yeah.
He's
At
the
least-
Gollum of the Spider-Man universe, and he's fucking sick. I
I
love what he does with his voice because it's
I
so
know.
subtle.
Yeah.
Because you're still like, that's Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
But like when he's Norman Osborn, he's still kind of talking down here, and it's
Yeah.
like normal. But then when he just tightens it up,
Yeah.
and he's like, Peter, like,
Oh my God. Yeah, but it doesn't feel forced at
Yeah,
all. It's not
yeah.
like Batman, like, I'm
yeah,
Batman.
yeah, it sounds
like,
natural.
Totally. It's
so
so
good. Oh, I love
Yeah,
it.
he's
He was so
amazing.
physical in this one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just slamming people through floors of
Yo,
buildings.
man, when like Peter is just like he's holding up Peter, he's holding his body up, and Peter's just like punching him in the face repeatedly, and he's
Yeah.
just like, ha ha ha! It's just like so good. I just felt it in that moment. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, he's unstoppable.
I like the fight too when he first turns, and then he's like they're fighting through the floor and they're going all the way to the bottom
Yeah.
level and stuff, and you're like, where does this go? Where does this end?
to the
P2,
bottom.
baby.
P2. And like, I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself, but
Yeah, maybe, but
fuck, man, he's so good.
well, we can.
Willem
I mean,
Dafoe's so good.
What we're here to talk about?
While we're on the strength, or did you want to change it?
No, go.
While
go.
we're on the strength, I did not see the Aunt May becoming Uncle Ben thing
No,
happening.
no, not even a second.
No.
And that was so cool.
Yeah.
It made me wonder, though, I was trying to remember, like, how much origin story did we get in the first Tom Holland appearances?
Very little.
No,
I think we
none.
all just assumed that Aunt May was married to Uncle Ben and that he had died for Peter
Yeah.
or whatever.
What
I
a
guess he never had
subversion
an
of
Uncle Ben?
expectations
Yeah,
that is.
brilliant. I know.
That is
Is
crazy.
it?
Yes, because every time you watch like a new Batman movie, you're just like, all right, yeah, there's gonna be the scene where his parents die, and then that's his origin every time.
Yeah.
But so you kind of assume that. So if they don't show that, it's like, well, why would they bother showing it? Because we're all up to speed at this
It is,
after so
yeah.
many Spider-Man movies. But then in this one, they're like, no, we never said that happened. It didn't happen. It's happening now. The third Spider-Man movie is his origin story. That's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
I
so
never really
cool.
thought about that until you said it just now. That like,
That's because I'm so good at this
oh,
job.
you're great. Yeah, we definitely assume that the origin has all happened in the first movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the movie 3, and now the first trilogy, the Tom Holland trilogy, is his origin story. Very strange.
I gotta say, this movie feels like the first one in Phase 4, where it feels like Marvel is in full control of where they're taking it again. And I feel like this is a good move into like, we're kind of going darker again, where like this Peter is now faced like a family death and is now ready for darkness. And I think they're heading more in that direction of like, there's more gravitas to what's happening.
Yeah, see, what I was going to say about the Aunt May thing is that it seemed kind of like kind of gave me a similar vibe where I'm like, you're doing the Uncle Ben thing, great responsibility, use the same line, blah, blah.
Almost the same line.
Yeah, for some reason.
We'll get back. That's a nitpick to me
Yeah,
because
for
in
sure.
Spider-Verse, they were like, with great responsibility comes great accountability. And that was like, same message,
Yep.
different words,
Yeah.
cool.
Sure.
This
We'll
was
change
like,
it again for this one, and by change it, we mean add
we'll
2
change
words.
the prepositions.
Yeah.
Like it was the same.
Yeah.
And the delivery wasn't good. She should have done it like 50 more takes, like David Fincher style.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that was part of it too. Her delivery made it a little bit more obvious that this is like, and I'm saying the line from the other movies. And so I was kind of like, I saw that and it kind of bothered me. Later, I'm kind of like, okay, I see like they're doing a really good job. Tom Holland is acting the hell out of this.
Yeah.
I can see the pain on his face. He's going through the exact same thing that the other Peters went through, which is why it's great that they're there to support him. And I appreciate all that narratively, but I wonder if they could do it a different way other than just being like, the thing Uncle Ben said, now Aunt May said it.
Here's a slight tweak that's not that, but I wonder if it would make you feel differently, which is she delivers that line while she's still not dying. She's injured, but she's walking with him still, right? Then she falls and dies a minute later. What if she had saved it for then, just like how Ben was lying on the ground dying?
Maybe.
Would you have liked it more or less same?
I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I feel like...
Because in that case, it would have been like, oh man, May's dying. Are they going to do it? Like, oh, this is kind of like his Uncle Ben. And then, oh shit, they're going for it. It is his Uncle Ben.
Maybe that is it. Is that when Uncle Ben says it to him? He says it to him
It's
when
done
he's...
before. It's like a payoff when he dies and says it. It's like it's been set up before.
In the original Toby movies, he just says it as like that's his mantra.
says it
like,
when he's
hey, you're
dropping him
taking out
off.
the garbage. Great responsibility.
Sorry.
No. He says it when he's like leaving the car to go to the wrestling thing.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
And then later he comes back.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, maybe it would feel a bit more natural to me if I saw it coming a little bit more. But like, yeah, as I think you're right. As it is, it felt a little bit like they were just like, and we're gonna throw this in there at this point.
But then after that, it felt better and better to me because
for sure,
there's a moment where you're kind of like, they are this like they're the same but they're not. It's so interesting. It's like they have these touchstones in their lives that these are the things that matter across the dimensions. Like what they look like doesn't matter. Apparently the name does matter, unless you're Miles Morales, in which case it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But like this aspect of your life matters, and like
the family,
the struggle of containing the dark side matters.
I
thought
feel
that was
like-
cool.
I think when they get to the moment where they share that, like they're all like, "Oh, with great power comes great responsibility." They've all been given that message. I love that moment.
It's
And
like
great,
the
yeah.
essential, like who is Peter
Totally,
Parker?
yeah.
It's this experience,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
pure monomyth thing.
for sure.
so good.
It's something funny in like in a multiverse, the monomyth kind of like refers to something actually real because there are actual other versions of yourself who are like experiencing similar life events and stuff. There is an essence of Peter Parker in a sense. Anyways, but I think what I was going to say is that the Aunt May thing also sort of rubs me the wrong way a little bit because Peter's relationship, Toby Maguire's Peter relationship with Ben in the Sam Raimi trilogy is a bit like the moment at which Uncle Ben says that to him, Toby is in like a rebellious thing, right? He's like, I'm going to go get money because like
I want chicks.
Yeah, or something. Is that what's going on?
He wants to impress Mary Jane.
Right. I remember there's conflict, and he is sort of being a rebellious kid, and Uncle Ben is like, hey, this isn't the way, and he's like trying to give him these life lessons, and Peter isn't listening. And then after he dies, he's like, oh, this like important stuff that was being told to me by Ben is like, that's, I don't know. And so I think that gravitas, that conflict is missing from this one, where his relationship with May always seems totally fine. It seems like every scene with May in it, he's like speeding through and he's like, hey, May, I'm going to the thing. I'm just going to be careful, Peter. Okay, but I'll see you later.
Does it
like there aren't really some
that
conflict?
There aren't moments where there's like a quiet moment with the both of them that I remember. I mean, I know that there are probably like calm conversations between them in the previous movies, but none of them really stick out to me.
Where there's like kind of a grace note, like a heartstring is kind of like, I'm your parent. Here's
in the first one, there's the good moment when Tony Stark like leaves him. He's like we're done, and he goes home and he cries, and Aunt May's like, I'm here for you, and like he I think that's a good like aunting moment.
Yeah.
But that's 2 movies ago, and obviously it didn't stick with you, so.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, this isn't going to fulfill what you're talking about, but in this movie, there at least was a bit of conflict where she's the one who's like, no, we got to help these guys.
Yeah.
And
right. I do appreciate
since
that.
I have a teenager in my household, there's lots of times where like I say stuff, and then they're kind of just silent, and you're like, is that you internalizing this? But apparently Tom Holland did. Peter Parker did in this one. She basically says, like, this is what you're going to do, and then that ends up being his plan, right?
Right.
That's kind of how it goes. They're at the feast thing, and she's like, no, you need to help this poor man.
Yeah.
And then they go back to the sanctum or whatever in the wizard dungeon. Like, there's the plan. We're going to save them all. So she kind of gives him the plan.
For sure.
It's kind of...
he pushes back a bit in that moment, and then later he's like, no, she's right. Yeah.
This is kind of not that I want to like start getting into the other thing we hate about this movie. I hate very little about this movie, but one thing that kind of made me
I've already said 2 things.
made me uncomfortable in this movie is that she gives him that device at the beginning. Like he does as a protagonist who's like should be active and driving the movie. She's the one who's like, you should act this way, and then he proceeds to act this way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the other Spider-Men are like, yo, don't go dark side and just rage kill somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, he's rage hitting the Goblin, and it's not he doesn't stop himself.
Yeah.
It's another Spider-Man intervenes, and I'm like, what the hell?
But it's
as a
almost like-
protagonist, like shouldn't he should be in control, and he should be like almost about to kill him, and then he realizes, no, don't do this. That's a pitfall. I'm the hero. I'm growing right now. I'm not going to do this.
Right.
But ultimately, I feel like, and I wonder if you agree with this, I kind of get why they did it the way they did it, and I accept it because he's the quote-unquote child, practically a fetus Spider-Man, where it's like, you need those mentors,
Yeah.
and it's okay for them to show you the way.
I think it doesn't feel cheap because it is Peter stopping Peter. You know, it's like an older version of himself, and so it's like this version of the character did not come to that realization himself, but in a way, he is coming to it himself.
Yeah. Well, it's like he saved himself, even though he wouldn't have been able to do it by himself.
Like if they all had sex at the last scene, it would have just been masturbation.
It would have been a 10 out of 10.
There's some.
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable at the age gap. And
that's another weird moment of fan.
We don't know what month his birthday is. What kind of service are you talking about here?
Fan servicing.
Okay. Let's get out of here.
Fan servicing.
When I love that anger that Tom Holland shows there. I think, like you said before, he acts the fuck out of this movie.
He's so
this is his
good.
best acting by Spider-Man ever, easy. But when he goes and he takes the glider and he's gonna kill him, and it's like I like that
imagery.
Green Goblin killed himself with the glider. He killed Aunt May with the glider, and then Peter's now gonna kill the Goblin with the glider. It's good. But the face that Toby Maguire makes holding it up is the same face he makes holding up the building in Spider-Man 2.
Oh yeah, to save Mary Jane.
I'm pretty sure that was on purpose, but I can't tell. But I don't know. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's like a fan service moment or not?
No, I just don't think he has that many faces.
Yeah, I was going to say Toby Maguire at 46, he's got some work done. I don't think he can make that many facial expressions.
I don't think he had that much work done.
I'm just saying. His face seemed a little plastic.
You can always tell with the turkey neck.
I mean,
he's 46,
No,
Riley.
I know he's 46.
At least he's
but
thin. Damn.
Yeah. I don't think
Know how
that
hard that is?
He didn't look. Hasn't he done like some crazy drugs and stuff?
I don't think so. I don't know. Macaulay Culkin.
Weren't you saying that?
Well, no, he went through he's a skeezy dude.
I feel like I felt
He's the character in Molly's game. Like he's
that's what you were saying.
Yeah, and so he's a sketchy dude.
There's lots of clips of him yelling at paparazzi too that are pretty fun.
I felt some Macaulay Culkin vibes, honestly.
A little bit.
Are they friends?
Michael
Maybe.
Jackson in him?
I think one of the things I think they do really well in this movie is they differentiate the different Spider-Man, and it's very clear that they have different personalities.
Yes.
And they kind of fall into place in a
Yeah.
really natural way. Like, I think they utilize Toby Maguire better than they do in the fucking first 3 movies.
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
He works so well here.
The
as,
youth
like,
pastor thing was so spot on. He's great as an older brother.
Such a great, yeah.
And then Andrew Garfield. Like, I like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man in the other movies, but man, he made me feel so much in this movie. I was like, the way he
This
like
was
is
not just a
self-deprecating,
cameo.
but he's dark and like
Yeah.
all of it. I was like, oh, he's got so much going on.
I
under
hadn't seen the
surface.
other ones, but
Yeah.
I wanted to.
Yeah.
After watching that, I was like,
Yeah.
he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's
like when he's
awesome.
like, Peter Parker 3, whatever, I guess that's me. That was so funny.
Honestly, I was so happy that they dug into their personalities a bit more, because that's what redeemed the fan fiction thing for me. As I
sure.
said, like, you could have these other Peters come in and just be like, hey, we're here to back you up, Peter, because we're Spider-Man also.
Yeah.
But then no, instead they really differentiated them. Like Andrew Garfield is this like damaged cautionary tale where he's like, but there's hope of redemption. You
You
kind
can
of
make
see
a
him
bad
in a little
movie,
bit.
guys. It could happen to you.
It's like he's damaged because of the things that happen to the character, but also because of the movies themselves. And
I love
then
that.
Toby is like the older role model who's got his life figured out.
Yeah.
And they came up against the whole, like, when we integrate these characters into our movie, do they have the tone of our movie, or do they carry in the tone of their movie?
Yeah.
And they carried in the tone of their
Yeah.
movie, but they did the thing that we've talked about a few times when good movies do this on this podcast, which is they make the past movie better.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you finished, you know what, Andrew Garfield, Peter Parker 3, you're going to get to do what you never got to do. When he saved Mary, I feel bad for anyone in the building within earshot.
Yeah.
When he saved MJ.
What, that's the part that we're like making sure no one else can hear around. Like,
It was.
I almost cried. I almost cried like 3 times
I
in this
almost cried
movie.
in that moment.
Yeah.
But
But when he did that, I was like,
and he's holding her, and
Yeah.
it's when he catches her and he's like looking at her and he's crying, and he's like, this moment is like, this is the moment I was never able to do.
and you know what's so
oh,
great
that
about
was
that?
so cathartic.
What's so great about that is that I've never seen that movie. I didn't know. Like, I haven't seen the part where, like, I think I remember
I think
seeing
I've
in
seen
a
that
trailer.
scene. I think
Yeah,
I've seen
like
that
I've seen the
scene.
frame where like
Yeah.
Emma Stone is falling like from a big building or whatever, and he's like going after her. But like, I haven't seen the movie, and so when this happens, they put enough into this movie for that arc to be fulfilling, even
Yeah.
if you haven't seen the movie where that thing happens.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Fantastic.
that whole
Masterful.
final
A triumph.
final sequence. Yeah.
A triumph.
A triumph.
It is.
This movie is a triumph. It was so good.
So him saving MJ is also great because I saw somebody say that this is sort of like Marvel dunking on Sony a little bit, because they're like, hey, give us your characters. We'll write a script that feels fulfilling. You know,
Show you how
like
it's done.
you couldn't do this.
couldn't do
Like
it.
Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man. You screwed it up.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make this like fulfilling emotional arc with your characters. Like, screw you, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and-
Give us more rights.
I thought about you, Riley, when they make the joke about Toby Maguire's body fluid.
Yes.
I thought that was a great scene.
Okay, so that was what
He
I was talking
shoots
about.
them or whatever, and they're like, oh,
yeah,
what
they're
the
like, that
fuck?
came out of you.
They had
how I
to
opened.
acknowledge it.
That's how I opened the last episode. It's like the webs come out of his body, and they had a whole. It was like a 2-minute conversation about it.
Yeah.
I love
It was a
it.
good
Sitting
conversation.
on the Statue of Liberty.
2 things. On the point about them dunking on Sony, there's almost a little bit of that in the fact that just in the arc where Peter is going to be the one that doesn't go through this like rage kill thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to be the best version of Spider-Man. Yes, he is. And this
Yeah.
movie is too. And to your second point, that scene where they're on the Statue of Liberty and they start talking about the web again. It's the second time they've mentioned it.
Mhm.
And they start going on about it. And I was, for a second, I was like, this is kind of like a cringy deleted scene. Maybe they should have deleted this.
Oh,
But
really?
Then the scene goes on and they kind of switch topics and it gets even funnier and more. And they're really diving into it. And by
Yeah.
the end of the scene, I was like, I'm so glad they
Yeah.
went with. They
Yeah.
just went
Does
for
it
it.
come out of every hole?
I'm so glad this
You
movie
ever
is
had a web block?
as long as it is.
And he was like, I have had a web block. It was like an existential crisis type of thing. Oh yeah, no, I totally agree, James.
Deserves
like,
to be
it
over
seems-
2 hours.
Yeah. No, I
it
think
doesn't
the,
feel
the
long
length is
at
good.
all.
Yeah.
Not a second.
And
of it
I'm
was
so
like,
glad they didn't make it a deleted scene, because it when you allow things to once you cross the line, you have to go all the way. Like, you have to go deep. Like, we're gonna go deep and we're gonna have these crazy, silly conversations because we can. And I think that if they didn't go there, it would feel more hokey. It would feel more fan fiction-y.
Yeah.
But because they're just like, we're going all in. Everyone's here.
Yeah.
Everything's funny, and we're talking about the webs.
We're only
Like,
going to do this once, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I think I agree it didn't feel long, but when you say it never felt too long, I I'll say this. There were a couple scenes where I'm like, and the pacing just slowed. And it was
That's fair.
the first time I noticed that. It was right after like the kind of early climax, that Doc Ock fight. I was so amped. And then next after that, they go into the subterranean prison.
Okay, yeah, the Sanctum.
The Sanctum, and it's kind of like, okay, now we're back to like the MJ characters, the funny jokes with Ned. That was okay.
Yeah.
It picked up back up again, but that was kind of a zap in pacing.
For me, the only part where I was conscientious of time was the first 30 minutes, but that's just because I knew what was going to happen because I'd seen too much marketing. So.
What did you guys think about MJ and Ned?
I finally love Zendaya.
Yeah.
It was the first movie where
she did a lot more in this.
She had so much more to do. But in the other Spider-Man movies, I was like, she's fine. Like in the first one especially, she's kind of a side character and she gets like some sassy quips and she's funny. Like I love when she draws Peter in detention or whatever. But in the second one, I was like, oh, okay, she's okay. Like I don't really get it. And Dune, I was like, I don't get it. All she does is look at the camera.
Dune, she just looks back.
Oh, wait, you didn't like Zendaya?
Yeah,
period?
I like, didn't really get it.
Oh,
I mean, the character or like
the actor and the character for sure. I was like, I don't really get it. But in this movie, I was like, oh, there it is. I get it. She has so much charm, so much personality. She's so warm in the right ways, but she's got like that edge.
One of those people who can
interesting.
just do a lot with her face.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because I feel like her portrayal in here and her performance, I don't want to say that it's entirely her fault because I think that she was, well, I think it's the majority of it is not her fault. I think this was a direction choice that she's much more of like I'm a nice, sensitive, bit more generic, supportive girlfriend to the hero situation. And I liked her better as the sort of like sassy, I'm not the MJ you expect type of situation. And so it's like, I think some of her character is kind of like, we see a lot of it still. She's like sassy to the cops when they're arrested. And she like,
Strange.
she has her little quips and stuff. And her dynamic with Peter and Ned when they're all together is fun. Like they're all quipping at each other and stuff. Yeah. But I feel like her character is kind of neutered in this. And I think that some of that is necessary because they are together now. They actually are dating, and it's like, you know, they are being tender with each other and they are supporting each other. On one level, it's really nice to see that because Tom Holland's character this whole time has been so like, I'm just trying my best, oh, I'm Mr. Stark, blah, blah, blah. And his like, you know, his surrogate father gets taken away from him. He loses things all the time, like in terms of like support systems. And so it's nice for him to have this character. But I think it came a little bit at the expense of MJ's character. And I just thought it was like she was a little too like, I'm a girl. I'm a regular girl friend, you know?
You know that scene where the Spider-Man's standing in that dungeon and there's all those villains? I was like, this is all a lot of men. There's a lot of dudes.
We need two Zendayas.
We need some female
that's
villains.
just kind of the way that
even the fact that it's like
Dr.
all
Octopus.
Peter Parkers are all white dudes.
Dr. Octopus could be a female.
That's
You don't even have to change name.
That's the Rogues Gallery.
You're biased? You thought Doctor?
Well, I mean,
was Doc-
Into the Spider-Verse, it's a female.
Yeah, I'm mostly joking. It is what it is. Like they couldn't.
They can't redo. Yeah, the whole point is that they're bringing those specific.
He's in this
actors.
movie, but it's different.
Different.
Yeah. The Lizard Man, not Lizard Man, but the Lizard, man. I was fine, and I haven't seen those movies again, right? So I was fine until he spoke. I was like, "You don't fit in this movie." I didn't like that.
Well, I did like the like sort of meme that they didn't know whether he could talk or not, and then he starts talking. They're like, "Wait, you can talk?"
Yeah.
And my favorite bit of that scene is like, what's his name? Max is talking about like, man, I need a makeover or something, or give myself a makeover.
Yeah, I got a makeover.
And he's like, I can give you a real makeover.
Oh my God.
Into a lizard? Exactly.
Yeah.
It feels a little too cartoony, that character.
I didn't love that line, but they were pretty good at. They were pretty good at acknowledging, like and winking at the camera, being like, some of the stuff is kind of.
And they don't have too much of the reptile. Like even when they go to the apartment, they're like, stay in the car.
He's just an enforcer, right?
Yeah,
he's just a brawler.
He was like,
and he's clearly the least important of the villains.
It's interesting though that all the other Sandman was a little underdeveloped in this one as well. He's just like, I just want to go home.
Yeah, I actually like him better in Spider-Man 3 than in this movie because he has a lot of like development.
He's a very compelling character in Spider-Man 3. You like see the pain in his eyes. Thomas Hayden Church, which is kind of a shame that he's just like CGI sand monster the whole time. In this movie.
I also don't think he's CGI when he's like a personified, like he's.
It doesn't look great.
It looks bad.
Yeah.
I was really not impressed. When it's the big clouds and like the big like fight scenes, I was like, oh, this looks great.
The thing that's interesting about having him in this movie is that like they cure or heal Octavius right off the bat, so you can tell right away like, okay, he's gonna come back and help Spider-Man later.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you got the bad guys. Jamie Foxx is gonna stay bad the whole movie, but Sandman's in the middle.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I don't trust anyone. I don't like anyone. All I want is this. And so he's kind of the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Is he gonna help later or not? I can't remember if he does. I think he just comes back and attacks at the end.
I think he helps. He helps kind of
Who's that,
contain
Sandman?
Electro. No, that's in the middle fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sandman
not
is,
at the end of the Statue of
I
Liberty.
remember.
Sandman at the end is just kind of like, I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Push the button.
Yeah, I guess that's what he's going for. Is just he wants just to push the button.
Yeah.
I
But I think he's like, I guess he's like, if I have to kill you to get out of here, then whatever. Yeah.
if I was going to give an award for most improved from their movie, it would definitely be Jamie Foxx's character. Because I actually thought he was like pretty good in this movie, and he's awful in the OG one.
He was pretty bad in this one too.
Yeah, I agree.
I
agree. I'm not gonna say he's not better.
Yeah,
because I didn't see those, but I got Baby Driver Jamie Foxx vibes
for sure
versus Collateral Jamie Foxx vibes. Like there's sometimes where you're like, he is such a good actor.
Yeah.
And then in Baby Driver, you're like, this guy phoned it in. Give me the check. Like,
it's funny how Jamie Foxx can really like do both. Get you an actor who can do both. Really
stand-up
bad
comedy,
and
rapping.
Really good. He can do multiples. Yeah,
he just can't do
quintuple threat.
Can't do villain.
Yeah, I didn't see the Amazing Spider-Man movies, so I don't really know what to compare it to. But I know that like I don't know compared to Otto Octavius and especially Osborn. I was just kind of like, is this? It seems like he's phoning it in a little bit. It's like, hey, I'm a bad guy, man.
Octavius did that a bit too. He was a little cartoony sometimes.
Yeah,
there were a couple
lines. Even at his big moment at the end when he like saves the day, I thought it was good, but I wasn't like, wow, what a moment. I was like, nice, cool.
It was just kind of like, I think I expected it and wanted that. I was fair. Like, oh man, it would be cool to have him be a good guy. And then he actually goes good. And I was like, okay, cool. We're actually going to get to see like, virtuous Dr. Octavius here.
Cool.
But
there's so many lines, like he was in the dungeon at one part and he just goes, ah!
So like, it makes a little bit of sense lore-wise because the tentacles sort of like take away his personality and make him just like I will kill you if I have to.
Kind of more animalistic, like power.
He sort of was like an evil Drax a little bit at some points. He's like, you there, where am I?
Yeah.
What is your name? What is this place?
Yeah, you're not Peter Parker.
Yeah, and they're like, what's your name? What's your name? And he's like, Otto Octavius. And like,
that was actually funny.
That landed for you?
Yeah,
I saw it in the trailer. It didn't land for me then or in the movie.
I don't remember that from the trailer. I don't know. I don't know. It's funny.
It's like Spider-Man can't do a movie with Dr. Octopus without calling direct attention to his
name.
His funny name. Ironic.
I guess that is true. They do have to make a joke.
I think one thing that this movie does have, even above the individual performances, is chemistry. I think every single person in this movie feels like it just fits together. Like Zendaya and Tom Holland are obviously dating, but this was the first movie I'm like, ooh, they're like connected, and then like Aunt May and Happy and everyone, even the villains, they just like it all just kind of just fits together pretty good.
I wonder what's up with that. Is that what choices? Is that the director just getting the best out of people, or is that the casting? Because there's so many beloved characters in this saga. Like we got like Ned. Who doesn't love Ned?
Yeah.
You know, he's amazing. Happy. Yep. All these characters are great.
Yeah, I love Ned. I'm so glad that we got to see his grandma.
That was amazing.
So funny.
I'm going to bed.
Yeah. So like, man, that scene is so great to me because Andrew Garfield comes in and you have that fan fiction moment where you're like, is this gonna be? But then as the scene goes on and she comes in, there's that like she's like asking him to clean up the cobwebs of the corner, and he crawls over and he just like waves at it like silly. Like it was just so great because they like really built up like I'm trying to think of the words for like they have to sell you on something, right? A movie, especially something with as fantastic as a premise as this, they have to sell you on it. Yeah. And particularly in that scene, it does such a great job of just kind of like
cultivating
slowly
it,
bringing you in, kind of acclimating you to the vibe, and then you're like, I feel taken care of. This is great.
Oh my god! The moment when he opens the portal, you're like, oh, that's so exciting. And then you see Spider-Man in the distance. The feeling I got,
just like the awkward wave. Yeah.
The feeling I got in my body was like it was such a crazy fan fulfillment. Like I can't imagine being more fulfilled as a fan.
Because your mind's racing. You're like, is that Tom Holland? Oh no, that's gonna be a different Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which Spider-Man? And then I was just like, for a second, I was like, oh yeah, there's gonna be the other Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It was just nice that, first it's the first 20 minutes, it's just Spider-Man movie, then it's Spider-Man plus old villains, and then they bring in the other Spider-Man later. It's just the way it unraveled was just nice.
Yeah.
Thoughtful.
Man.
Best Ned moment though, when he's asked, hey, did you have a best friend? Oh my god, that was so funny.
Yeah.
Whoever thought of that, it was such a genius.
You did? Till he tried to kill me.
He died in my arms after trying to kill me.
Yeah.
He's like, and then the next scene when he interacts with Tom Holland, it's like, what am I saying? Wordless. They don't speak at all. It's all physical comedy. He just goes up to him and just looks at him and then leaves the frame.
Well, yeah, he asked Ned. He's like, hey, can you set that compile going or whatever? And that's
I'll bet you that scene had dialogue. and they did like 10 takes, and eventually just, hey, let's do a pure physical take.
Yeah.
There are
And
definitely
whenever you can do that, it's better.
There are definitely some scenes where you can feel the improv, and it works so well. Like particularly when they come back to school and Hannibal Buress's
God.
teacher character and JB Smoove, and then the other guy I forget from Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
They're just riffing.
Yeah,
Like they
for
just
sure.
gave them some. They're like, go, just like.
Yeah.
he's
You want to
like-
if you want to just like swing, crawl on the ceiling, just like.
And then Hannibal just like interrupts him. He's like, I think he's guilty.
Yeah.
I think he did it. He's like, no, you're a conspiracy theory. He's like, no, man, this is a joke.
I believe Mysterio.
Yeah, they needed a moment with those characters, and then
So
the camera
good.
kind of punches out or pans over, and those students have been standing there the whole time.
That was a good moment.
was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that feeling when in a movie when there's just like a million people crowded around with their cell phones, I don't know, it's so icky.
Very
Like,
icky.
It's just like, I don't. Ooh.
That kind of makes me want to talk about the ending,
Sure.
the spell at the end. Some questions.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it works. There's a little nuance to that spell at the end, being like, hey, everyone's gonna forget Peter Parker. Now they don't forget Spider-Man.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, because
Spider-Man is remembered.
Yes.
And that's interesting. It says a lot about how discreet these two egos are. Like the character of Spider-Man is sufficiently different from Peter Parker that that's not getting erased.
There's so many questions.
That's interesting. But the main question is, physical and virtual records are gone too, right? There's no piece of paper that says Peter Parker exists. There's no video from last week where like the
I don't think
newscast
so.
from
I
last
think-
week
I think that all that stuff must
is
be
gone.
erased.
Now, my question though, like it must be gone, otherwise the spell is stupid because
Yeah.
anyone who just like, hey, I'm going to catch up on the news.
Yeah, it
like,
must affect.
it's undone.
Yeah.
My question is, did they take care of us in the movie for it? Because there is a shot of when he's moving in, it looks in one of his boxes, and there's a GED studying book. Like, oh, he has to study to finish
Yes,
high school.
I
I
think-
guess he didn't graduate yet. Or
Well, I think
is
he-
that shot
well,
saying?
I think to me what it said is that he now has to get his GD because he there's no record of him in high school.
That's what I'm wondering. Because
Yeah.
it also could mean, well, he didn't graduate, did he? Did he graduate ever?
Well, this
He
is
didn't finish, but I think like if his record still existed, he could have somehow fandangled it to finish. To me, it was
But
saying
it-
like he's got to start over. He's
That's
like
how I
odds
read
of
it too, but
ground
it is
zero.
ambiguous
That's
because
fair.
even
Well-
if without the spell, if he was just like, I'm going to do my GED and I'm going to
Yeah.
graduate this way, he could still do that.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there probably is going to end up being plot holes here, especially once they kind of like reveal later what actually happened in
Yeah.
like further MCU stuff. Because I thought that this spell was supposed to make everyone forget that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, but it ended up making everyone forget about Peter Parker
Well,
at
the
all.
first spell was supposed to be that. It was supposed to disconnect Spider-Man from Peter Parker, but then they fucked up the spell.
Oh.
And then the final spell was like, the only way to fix this is to erase Peter
And
Parker.
can I just say how great of a storytelling device that is?
Yeah.
This movie didn't need it,
Yep.
but it is a better story whenever you can do something like, okay, the big device at the beginning, we're going to do the inverse of that device later.
Yep.
That is
okay.
a really nice technique.
Yeah.
I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, I mean, the stakes are huge, and I think that's the moment when I really let it go. The rivers of tears flowed from my
Yeah, I
eyes
felt
when
it.
he
Your
when he
cheeks were
goes-
wet?
Yeah,
Nice.
When he held when he did his like friendship thing with
Oh my
Ned
God, yeah.
with the special handshake.
Called dabbing him up.
What
Go ahead.
is that actually what it's called?
No.
I'm a white boy. I don't know about the.
Go ahead. Carry on.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think particularly because like in the pandemic, a lot of my friends I haven't really been able to see, and like I've gone out of touch with them. So like when they like said goodbye, and it's like, he was like, I may never know you ever again. And it was such a touching moment. I was like, that's when I started crying. And then he's like saying bye to Zendaya, and she did a great job acting.
Yeah.
Tom did a great job acting. Like I felt the emotion in both of their faces.
Totally.
I was just like, man, you are about to isolate yourself completely from the entire world.
It does so many good things too.
Yeah.
It gets you to being like to Toby Maguire Spider-Man status, where it's like now you live alone in a crappy apartment.
Totally. I love that.
That was
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
It also gets me more than a mid-credits scene that shows a new character. This got me to be like, now I want to see what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
totally.
want to see those scenes in the next one.
Yeah,
more.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how this movie was able to make me care more about this Spider-Man than the other two. Like usually episode 3 of a trilogy is not the worst, but like it has a lot to live up to. Usually it's like one's the best, second is maybe okay, disappointing, and the third one kind of like mops up the ends and like in a sort of
Put your
satisfactory way.
bangs to the other
But
side.
this is the best one.
This is clearly the best one, yeah.
And more than that, this is the first movie that really felt like a Spider-Man movie to me and not a Marvel spin-off.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
even though there were all these Marvel things about, like, multiverses and Doctor Strange, blah, 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 all this crazy stuff, like, it felt the most like the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy
For
or
sure.
whatever to me, because we have, and I looked at Tom Holland, and I'm like, that's Peter Parker for, like, the first time. Before, I'm like, this is the guy, this is the kid they got, he's in the spider
Yeah,
suit.
exactly.
And now I'm like, that's Peter Parker.
And that's what I meant when I was saying that this feels like Infinity War or Endgame.
right.
Because, like, it's not a spin-off movie. It's not just, hey, if you're into Spider-Man, go see this version of the MCU or this corner of the MCU. This is like a reason for this all to exist.
Yeah.
It's a reason for the whole MCU to exist. This is a flagship movie, and it's awesome.
That's another interesting parallel, because a similar thing happened to me with Infinity War and Endgame, where, like, I don't really care much about the MCU until those movies. And then I was like, oh, there's some, like, actual depth here. Now I'm into it. Same
Still
thing.
haven't seen Ant-Man.
Do you think there's
I mean, you can skip those.
Do you think there's something special about Spider-Man, or do you think it's just the fact that he's been so pervasive in pop culture that we are like, oh, I care about Spider-Man, or do you think it's actually the character?
Well, it's a chicken and egg thing, right? Like, why is he pervasive in pop culture? Because the character's good. Like, why is it Spider-Man and Batman is, like, every kid's favorite and not Aquaman?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Aquaman's some kid's favorite for sure. But
I think that Spider-Man is relevant because he is a much more relatable superhero than, like, Superman or Batman or whatever, where we can relate with his material conditions of kind of being this kid from maybe a not so great neighborhood or whatever, but he gets greatness thrust upon him, and what are you going to do with it? Okay, you have power. You didn't like inherit a bunch of money. You don't have a giant tower where you have all your jets and stuff. You just have some powers. What are you going to do? Are you going to be bad? Are you going to be good? What's up?
the other thing that you've talked about before is just parents dying. You talked about how kids like, you know, they don't understand, like, themes about love or something like that because they're not in love with people because they're kids. They're prepubescent, but they do understand parental attachment. So Superman and Batman and Spider-Man, they both have the whole, like, your parents are dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Nope, that makes a lot of sense.
And Spider-Man, yeah. And now he definitely, his one parent is dead. His surrogate.
Well, now I
Both
want
his
to know.
surrogate. His surrogate father and his surrogate mother
His
are dead.
surrogate father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Wait, Happy? No,
No.
Happy's alive.
Stark.
I don't think Happy was his, yeah.
That was heartbreaking to me when they're both crying at MH's grave.
I hated that toque.
Yeah, it was a little bit distracting.
You know, I thought the exact
It's
same
covering
thing.
his eyebrows.
I was
pull
like,
that thing
that
up.
toque looks a little weird. on
Maybe it
Tom
was
Holland.
actually cold, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, what was the significance of, and maybe I missed it, maybe they explained it, the Captain America shield on the Statue of Liberty? Is it just because, like, oh, he died saving the world, or what is it? But I found it really weird and distracting.
It was. And it's also, especially because it's like, it didn't look like they needed to do it. Like, I thought that,
She already has a torch.
did the Statue of Liberty
what you
get
mean?
destroyed in something?
I don't remember.
Because once the shield fell off, it was just the normal Statue of Liberty. So it's like, wait, so the Statue of Liberty was just chilling, and then you were like, we're going to put a shield on it. But,
to honor
but,
it.
Was
but
it
like,
to tie
but in this universe, Captain America is still, like, what's his name is Captain America now? The
No.
Falcon.
Oh, yeah.
Is it because they wanted to tie the Daily Bugle into criticizing the Avengers and more broadly, like, non-Spider-Man superheroes?
Maybe.
I think that they did it to have a spectacle.
It's a set piece.
Which is like, it's one of my nitpicks that it's seriously kind of like J. Jonah Jameson calls him out for, like, meeting at Ellis Island because he's like, oh, you're going to deface another national monument. It's like, yeah, that's actually kind of a dick move to like meet there. Like, you could have gone and met in, like, the forest or something.
I need something tall, please.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Part
It's
of my
like,
powers.
What?
no, we're going to trash this.
I do need my Spider-Man fights to be somewhere where they can use height.
Yeah,
It
for
has
sure.
to-
But
we
then
need
that's why I say forest. I don't know. Obviously,
Yeah,
it's a movie. It's like, it was a great spectacle.
That's nitpicks and hit picks, boys.
Yeah.
It's
So I had one more sort of deepish thing that I wanted to talk about, because the MCU has made a big freaking deal, especially in Infinity War and Endgame, about the notion that they don't trade lives. Their ethical framework is very much deontological or virtue ethics one instead of utilitarian. And I thought for a second that they were gonna flip the script here and be like, because I forget what point in the movie, but there is a point in the movie where it feels like Doctor Strange is really, like, explaining things,
Yeah,
and it's like,
needs of the many.
there is
outweigh the
no
needs
way
of the
that this
few.
makes sense, what you're about to say. We just need to, it's going to screw things up more if you try to cure them. But the movie very, very, very solidly says, no, everyone deserves a second chance. Everyone's important, like anti-death penalty, that kind of thing. And so that the entire events of the movie play out because of that, because, like, Peter is saying, no, everyone deserves a second. I'm not going to be utilitarian about this. And it, like, fucks everything up. But then it's like, okay, is this a better is this a better outcome because you did save their lives and now they are going back and maybe they won't die.
But Aunt May is dead.
Well, she is. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think the movie's not
Because
making
I
it.
was going to say that the only real obviously but the only real consequence is that is him. He takes the responsibility on himself, which also is like important because it's like power responsibility.
Yep.
But yeah, Aunt May dies, so that's definitely some collateral.
What's your question exactly?
I think I was just
Observation.
I didn't have a question. It was just an observation that I thought the MCU was doing something a bit more interesting philosophically in terms of like how they think about their ethics.
Yeah.
But really, they're kind of sticking to the script and saying,
don't trade lives.
no, lives are important just because there's just like the de facto, that's our moral grounding.
But I think the making it a little more complex by having him pay with the life of his aunt.
Yeah.
I think does add at least a bit of texture to it. And maybe it doesn't flip the script, but it makes it more interesting.
Because I guess you could think about it as like, all right, Aunt May died, but she died to now save and redeem these other villains who like have a second chance and maybe they go on to do, it's like that's sort of the all lives are, I don't want to say all lives matter, but all lives have infinite value under like the moral framework that like our Western society uses.
Well, I don't think that Strange was coming just from that perspective, not just the trade lives thing and their value of their lives. He's also coming from like the kind of like combinatorial consequences, chaos theory effect across the multiverse. It's not,
you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not just that, hey, you get to live and that's great. It's
That's
also
true.
just like, what happens if Sandman is still there? Is he going to go and kill somebody else? And then, just...
No, that's true. I think it was a bit more complex.
It's
than
incalculable.
Just like, it's not just like, we have to think about the outcomes only and not just like not human worth. But I think it's interesting. I give the movie points for bringing up the question and making me think about it. But I also was like a little disappointed because I thought they would address it a little more.
Hit pick.
Yep.
That oneer which like a long one shot, when the lizard runs from Statue of Liberty through the portal into the room where Ned and MJ are. And it's just like suddenly there's danger. Like these characters are not safe just because they're over there. And it's claustrophobic, and it's basically that scene in Jurassic Park with the raptors.
But I really like it too because it's a good setup for why Doctor Strange will show up, because he's struggling with portals. He's like trying to close it, and eventually he's able to open one, but he opens one to where Doctor Strange just sucks. So it works within like the arc that they're like the story of that scene.
Yeah.
But then it also works like to kind of be Deus Ex Machina, but it's earned.
Yeah. When you make movies like this and at these scales, everything you write has to do at least two things.
Yep.
Was that was it Mike Jones on the Luca episode when the screenwriter from Luca came on, and was he the one who told us that everything needs to do double duty or triple duty?
I don't know, but that's a rule.
That's a definite screenwriter rule.
Big hit pick is the Doctor Strange fight mid movie.
That was sick.
It was a sick fight. I love. The whole thing is awesome when he grabs it and runs out of the building, and then Doctor Strange does the like spirit punch or whatever. I'm like, that's cool. But then he's gonna go like calmly grab the box, and his spider reflexes are enough.
Yeah, that's baked in, baby.
They didn't even address directly that that was the spider sense going on. Like Peter didn't even know why. He's like, oh, that's so cool.
It's the coolest thing that's ever happened to me, but I don't want it to happen again.
But then they go and into the strength of the Doctor Strange movies, which is those cool like kaleidoscope visuals. Yeah, and they're in that weird mirrored dimension. He's like flying through. You get like they're going through the mall, but there's like the Christmas stuff, but it's all flipped, and it's so fun.
Which was 100% the coolest thing about the Doctor Strange movie.
100%.
Yeah.
But before that, even I loved the kind of portal aspect, like Portal the game, where he web slings. Strange portals that and another portal so that web that he shot just hits his own ankle and he's like suspended. That was so creative.
They were having fun with portals.
Hey,
that was good.
Yeah,
great success.
Great success.
Did Tony Revolori put on a bunch of weight or something?
Yeah,
on purpose?
I don't think on purpose.
Who's that?
That's Zero.
I think it was just shocked.
Or Flash in this.
I was just I was just shocked because he's always been this scrawny kid.
Well, it's funny. Ned has lost a bunch of weight, and so they kind of are like.
Yeah, they honestly when they stand next to each other in the early game, and I was just like, they are literally the same.
Yeah, it's fine.
Ned started to grow up. I was like, oh, he was getting a man face now.
No, he has lines.
One thing I wanted to say this earlier. Like, I love how he accidentally figures out he can do the portal.
Yeah,
he's just shaking his hand. He's like, maybe Peter's out there somewhere. I was like, huh? What was that?
Yeah, and they'll do it again.
It was so brilliant.
Maybe Peter. Yeah.
I love his little like motion.
Love it.
I don't know.
I love another big hit pick is the restraint they show in introducing Charlie Cox as Daredevil.
Yeah.
Like it's just like really casual. Like, oh, you're gonna need a lawyer. There he is.
Yeah.
that they're talking, and then the brick's thrown, and he just catches it.
Yeah.
And I was like,
It's such
The
a great
fuck?
moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you do that? I'm a really great lawyer. It was so great the way they did it. I mean, I was happy because I've seen the Daredevil shows.
and everyone wanted him because he's of the Marvel shows on Netflix. That was definitely the most consistently good one.
Yeah, and apparently, minor spoil. Well, I don't know if it's minor spoilers for the Hawkeye show. No, that's all I say. There's also a tie-in. There's
Yeah,
also
it's
a
all
tie-in in
connected.
The fact that
It's
you're
a
going to say
show.
spoiler for Hawkeye show, it's already indicates that there's a tie-in.
Yeah, there you go.
I had it spoiled. Anyways.
Hit pick. Happiest sleep apnea machine.
Yeah.
The humor in this movie is so awesome.
So funny. Not by choice. Yeah, hit pick of the century. This is like this transcends this movie, and it's like one of those things that they couldn't do without 20 years of build-up.
Smash hit pick.
Oh, smash hit pick. The use of the Danny Elfman score
I was gonna say
in this fucking movie.
That's
We talked about it
yeah.
on the episode, how good the score in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies are.
Yeah.
And the fact that
I
they
listened, buddy.
Oh,
I wasn't here, but I
nice.
listened.
Oh, that's good. The fact that they pulled that into this made me so fucking happy.
it really hit, and it just underlines that moment because Toby's Spider-Man is saving Flint, the Sandman, something that he didn't get to do in Spider-Man 3. So we get that moment, and then we get the Garfield moment. I don't know if there's a musical theme that underpins that as well.
Who knows?
But it's just like the synergy and the way they tied it all up was just so great.
Oh, man. Feels good.
Question. What was the deal with the little Star Wars Lego Emperor figurine?
It's from the first movie. So him and Ned build the Death Star.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just like a symbol that like he still cares about his friends.
Oh, it's his Inception token.
Yep. Yeah.
I thought that was weird. I didn't get it. I was like, dark side? Because anger? I don't know.
Did you guys think of Brave when Peter said, "What if we could change their fate"?
No.
Never
but
saw
that's
Brave?
funny.
You
No
never
one
saw
else-
Brave?
No
I've
one
seen
saw
it.
Brave. You're just Irish.
No, one of the things in the movie is like, "What if you could change your fate?"
Oh, it's a
yeah.
Scottish
So
movie.
when
Okay.
Peter, when he said that, I was like,
Big hit pick is the goatee shape thing.
Oh, hilarious.
Killed me. It's like the little box, and it's like perfect goatee, and it's like a little shape.
It's like a
Doctor
jig.
Strange shape.
he has that.
Yeah, they pick it up, and apparently in the background of another shot, there's like goatee dye or something.
Oh, I saw that.
I
saw that.
missed that one.
That-
It's like a
That's so
just for
funny.
men kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Silver,
Fucking
adding silver
killed me.
accents.
I love every
Oh,
time
man.
that Osborn is like, "Hey, I could go for a burrito right now." he's like stealing. You guys see in the background when Peter's talking to his Aunt May about like whether they should try to cure them or not. In the background, Norman Osborn is grabbing all the food and stuffing in his pockets.
Yeah.
yeah.
He had that costume. It was like a purple hoodie and green pants, and I was like, okay, you're still in your colors,
Yeah.
your goblin colors.
Well, was it supposed to be sort of like a Hobgoblin look? I'm not enough of
Yeah,
a Spider-Man
I think so.
fan.
Hobgoblin's blue and orange.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was just like an alternate Green Goblin look. Like that's like
Oh,
the
okay.
hooded one. That's a look.
Yeah, I thought that was Hobgoblin though, but
Who
whatever. It
knows?
doesn't
Hobgoblin's
matter.
a different individual, I think. I'm tapping into. I haven't seen the '90s Spider-Man since I was like in first year in uni. But anyways, I had another thing. Oh yeah, he's wearing those clothes, and I'm thinking like, is that a fan service thing, or is it a subtle reminder? Like, we talked about how you want to be right, you want to see things coming, and then when you saw something coming, it happens, you feel good about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually like emotionally affects us more than being surprised.
Yeah.
Is it just like a little touchstone, like, don't trust this guy?
Yeah.
Just kind of like how Otto Octavius is always like, there's a couple glances where he glances at Osborn, and we're like, and because he's going to turn evil in the end,
Yep.
and you want to know that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's what it is.
I have
Or not. Another hit pick, and it's like just an Easter egg, but it's the shot where Norman smashes the mask in the alleyway and walks away is basically the same shot as Toby Maguire in the second one when he leaves his mask and walks away.
Man.
And I was like, ooh, the hidden fan service where it's just like really subtle, but it's there.
Can you
that's the good
imagine-
stuff.
Because that's not a factoid.
No. Yeah.
It's like I've watched it a million times.
Totally.
Can you imagine if there was a Star Wars movie that did this, that did this well?
Kevin
wish.
Feige
Can you
wants to be
imagine?
involved.
I just like, man, it makes me sad.
Yeah.
Because like if I was like a hardcore Spider-Man fan, I'd be creaming my pants.
We don't have time to
Cream
get
my
into.
pants hard.
We don't have time to
All
get
right,
into
Yeah,
Star
all
Wars,
right.
guys.
Talk about
another couple moments like that are really subtle is when they finally give Tom Holland Spidey senses, but they do the same shot they do in the Sam Raimi one, which is like the vertigo zoom in slow-mo where he becomes aware, and
Yeah.
it's very similar to the Sam Raimi. There's a couple whip zooms too, and I'm like, oh, they're bringing the spirit of the Sam Raimi movie into this,
Right.
while it got its own tone, and it just fits so good. It feels so fucking good.
And that's are you talking about the scene where he like senses that Norman Osborn is?
I think
is it?
so, yeah.
Yeah. Like I love that because normally his spider tingle goes, and then something happens really quick.
Yeah.
But in this one, it goes for a long time,
And it
you're
kinda,
like,
shows all the
what
villains.
is going to
Yeah,
happen?
yeah.
And then he goes, oh man, it's such a masterful.
So good.
One thing that it's sort of like a note and then a hit pick. I love that MJ kind of has some character development here, where she's like, if you're disappointed, if you expect disappointed, you can't be disappointed. If you,
Yeah.
And then when they get the cures together and they're like, all right, let's go. Are we ready or whatever? And then he's like, oh, sorry, we shouldn't think we're going to beat them or whatever. And then MJ is like, no, like, we're going to kick some ass.
Yeah.
And then it goes, and Ned's like, cure that ass.
That was hilarious. Holy. So funny.
good.
And it just brings that like meme teenager spirit into the movie.
Cure that
I love
ass.
Ned.
I heard a fan theory this weekend that I really want to believe, and it's that when Andrew Garfield went back, he didn't go back to his universe. He went to an alternate universe where Gwen Stacy is Spider-Gwen, and he gets to see Emma Stone again, but
Hell
she's
yeah.
Spider-Woman.
Spider that
That would
ass.
be super cool.
Spider that ass.
I hope that he comes back. I know he probably won't, but that would be really cool to have like Andrew Garfield back for another team up.
I had a couple chats with people like they can't do this again. They can't just have like
No.
a straight like the thrill is the callback. But I think people they know that people want to see more of these Spider-Man, so I think they'll do like in some later Spider-Man movie like a moment, you know,
Yeah.
like where they cross over. Or
It's almost
whatever.
like actually I take it back. It would probably ruin it.
It would cheapen it.
This is
sure.
like so good. Don't If they
This is
do
lightning
something
in a
later,
bottle.
yeah.
It'll get Force Awakened.
Yeah.
What is Peter? Oh, okay, wait, never mind. This is a nitpick that makes sense later.
All right.
Because like when Peter's watching the Jameson report on like, and once again Spider-Man screwed it up and like killed his aunt, blah blah blah. I'm like, where is he watching this? This is just like a giant TV on top of a building with sound.
Yeah, the sound.
Where does this
I
exist?
thought the exact same thing. That doesn't work.
Did you see the Zephyrus Duo laptop?
Yes, I did see that. That's the laptop that has a portion of screen on the keyboard.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, no one cares about that
One
stuff.
last
except
thing.
For
One last
Linus
thing.
Tech Tips.
The animated credits were so great.
At the end?
Oh.
Yeah.
One
It was
last
on
thing.
graph paper.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? It was like all these like childlike illustrations. I don't know.
That's
the
the same
animation.
as the end of Superbad when they're drawing penises and
Yeah,
credits.
well,
Same
but
thing.
this like it was just animated so great. It was visually like
And
amazing.
that's why
Yeah,
this
I loved it.
movie not only is a mashup of all of the Garfield and Toby Spider-Man, but it also nodded to the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Not only is
Yes.
it's a live-action Spider-Verse, but they had the moment where they acknowledged Miles Morales.
Yeah. Or
Like,
that
they
there's
had
a
to.
black Spider-Man somewhere.
Yeah, so that was awesome. Anyways, guys, this movie rocks. I'm glad.
It's
I hope
awesome.
everyone had an exciting time listening to this. I hope this gets as many listens and views as our Dune episode, guys. We're going to the top. This 2022 top 10 movie podcast consistent. That's what we're going for.
Show us to Denis Villeneuve.
So next week, everybody see Matrix 4. Woo! We shall talk about it.
I mean, you don't have to.
And hopefully it's not Matrix Snore, you know?
Oh,
Nah.
Matrix bore.
Yeah.
It probably will be.
Matrix boring through the tunnels on the way to Zion. Wait, that's Matrix.
Honestly, I'm like completely. I have no idea what to expect.
Me either.
It
I'm
could be-
cautiously optimistic.
I'm not I'm just like middleistic. What do you call that?
Ambivalent.
Neutral. Ambivalent.
Yep. Anyways, tweet at us at TJMPod. Email us hello@they'rejustmovies.com.
TJ.
It's
TJM
pod.
pod.
Oh, I got the wrong reference.
Oh yeah.
DK rap.
Yeah.